My name is Eugene Tiscornia, and I am pursuing a master's degree of education in digital teaching and learning at Azusa Pacific University. First, I would like to start by telling you a little bit about my life journey and how I got to this point in my life. I was raised by my grandma since the age of 4. Growing up, I spent most of my time in Lake Tahoe and Modesto. I attended a private school until I finally came to APU as an undergraduate. Beginning APU, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life, and that was to practice law. However, by the end of my senior year, I was not sure if being a lawyer is what God wanted for me. After graduating, I married my wife, Amy, and decided to take some time off of school and figure out what God wanted me to do with my life. Then, after the loss of my father, I recognized that God was calling me to teaching. Although not what I wanted to hear, I knew that I could not ignore his call any longer and enrolled in the single subject credential and master's in digital teaching and learning program at APU. My journey through the master's program has been challenging and rigorous, but very rewarding. I have learned a great deal not only about myself, but also what it takes to be an educator in the 21st century. In EDUC514, I learned about video production and how to create educational movies to reinforce my teaching. In EDUC515, I learned how to use Twitter and develop a professional learning network, as well as how to create and design my own classroom website. In EDUC522, which was by far my most rewarding class in the master's program, I gained valuable information and knowledge in how to recognize students' different learning styles and teach to them using diverse formats of technology and different depths of knowledge. In EDUC 526, I learned how to tailor the unit plan I created on the Civil War in EDUC 522 to meet the learning needs of GATE, ELL, and special needs students. In EDUC 526, I also learned a great deal about how to conduct an action research report. For my action research report, I wanted to learn natural ways that I could reduce my anxiety as well as identify what areas of my life made me feel the most anxious. I discovered and implemented 8 techniques over the time span of 8 weeks. What I learned was there are 3 areas in my life that give me the most anxiety: family, being a failure, and losing control of myself. Let me explain a little deeper. My family often gives me anxiety because I am terrified of being alone, and most of my immediate family is much older than me, and because I was raised by my grandmother, who for all intents and purposes has been like a mother to me, I often worry about her health as well as the health and well-being of other family members. The second area in my life that often gives me anxiety is failing at something that I attempt. Although I am scared of failing at anything I attempt in life, from school to investing in the stock market, I also recognize that through my failures, I am able to become a stronger and wiser individual. The final area of my life that gives me the most anxiety is losing control of myself. By that I mean I am terrified of developing a medical condition where I lose control of my ability to function as I am right now in my life. For example, having a stroke or developing Alzheimer's. It's not so much the physical aspect that it is the mental aspect of losing who I am. I understand that these things are ridiculous to worry about, especially at the ripe old age of 27. However, these are the things I worry about. Ridiculous, I know, but unfortunately true. However, at this point in my life, I am more focused than I have ever been before at overcoming my anxiety. That is why I chose to conduct an action research study on what triggers my anxiety and what I can do to naturally lower it. In order to measure my anxiety before and after my relaxation techniques, I created a sliding scale based on how anxious I was feeling before and after the techniques I implemented, as well as my anxiety level at the end of the day, which I recorded at 8 p.m. For days where a technique was implemented continually throughout the day, one random situation or time the technique was implemented was recorded. As I noticed my anxiety levels rising, and in order to keep an accurate measurement of my anxiety, before I implemented any technique, when I first noticed my anxiety levels were rising, I would wait 10 minutes to record my measurement of anxiousness using the anxiety scale I created. The anxiety scale ranges from 1 to 10, 1 representing very little anxiety, 5 represents some anxiety, 10 represents extreme anxiety. The first technique I used was setting time aside each day to worry or allow myself to be anxious. This technique proved to be less successful than any of the other techniques in helping to lower my anxiety. The idea is that by providing myself a specific time to worry or be anxious, it will free up all other time that I spend being anxious. This technique proved to be less effective overall amongst all of the techniques I implemented. In fact, this technique actually made my anxiety worse. The second technique I implemented into my study was to mentally imagine the word stop whenever I began to become anxious. This technique also proved to be unsuccessful, in which 5 out of the 7 days, my anxiety was actually more severe as a result of completing this technique. For week 3, I finally started to see my anxiety lower as a result of the technique I was implementing. In week 3, I used the art of visualization and meditation. The results showed that on each of the days I applied this technique, my anxiety was lower after the technique, and by the end of the day, my anxiety was also lower when compared to my anxiety level before I began using the relaxation technique. In week 4, I decided to change my very non-existent sleep pattern and go to bed at 10 p.m. every night and make sure that I received at least 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. I noticed that overall this technique was successful. However, throughout each of the days, my anxiety was still rather high, ranging on my anxiety scale from 7 to 10. In week 5, through the implementation of listening to music when I became stressed or anxious, I noticed an overall reduction in my stress, which was surprising because it was not what I had hypothesized. In week 6, I selected to eliminate caffeine from my diet. This technique was also successful in lowering my anxiety tremendously. By the end of week 6, I noticed that my anxiety levels were significantly lower than they had been at the beginning of the week. Through the implementation of regular exercise during week 7, I saw the most significant drop in my anxiety levels. In week 8, I decided to make a calendar and organize my time better. I actually wish I would have started this at the beginning of my action research project. Overall, I saw that I was not only more focused during the day, but also less frantic about what I needed to get done for the day or week. This technique helped to mentally organize my thoughts as well as physically manage my time better. Overall, by using this technique, my anxiety was lower at the end of the day. Each of the 8 techniques I applied helped me to gain better insight into not only what causes my anxiety, but also successful ways to manage it. Upon graduation from Azusa Pacific University, I will have gained a single subject teaching credential in social science and a Master's of Education in Digital Teaching and Learning. I am truly excited to see where God leads me after graduation. Thanks for watching.